Hey guys, this is Jim Fix, aka Fillmore. For those of you who love QF, a podcast about Howard Stern, and would like to donate some money, there's two ways now you can do it. You can join our Patreon page, which is listed in the graphic you're seeing now. But also, if you'd rather not do a subscription-based thing, even if it's $1 a month or what have you, you can use our PayPal account, which would be jimfix76@gmail.com. And you can donate whatever you like, however you like, one of those two ways, and we'd more than appreciate it if you'd like to do so. Thank you very much.
I have zero inbox. Do you know that? We do another contract here. Well, let's do a 3-hour show. We should be done right now.
Well, you're having this negotiation with me. That's the only problem.
Well, who am I supposed to negotiate with? Fred? And the one thing I don't respond well to is humiliation. I don't respond well to it at all. You know, I don't want to be told what a shithead I am. I don't want to be, those days are over. I've suffered enough in this business. I don't need to find out what a shithead I am.
Are you ready for this?
You cut your hair, man. What'd you do? What's going on?
I'm getting old.
So what?
I can't keep it like yours.
You know, I'm old too. So what?
Yeah, but you're ugly.
Thanks.
Jesus.
What are you saying? I need the hair?
You need it.
No,
you need it.
You know, it's just interesting when people have their kids on the air.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if a kid was a fuck-up, you just keep them quiet.
I put my kids on the air more, but they want no part of it.
When you're trying to just have a friendly conversation, when he's irritable, the things you do every day become the wrong thing to do.
That's true.
He doesn't listen.
That's right.
But the most irritating thing of all is that we used to be good friends, and we just aren't anymore. I still love him, but he says everybody's expendable, and I just have to live with that.
I was going to look for a Nikki Hilton, but you see, those good-looking rich girls, they don't go for a guy like me because they don't need my money.
And Rickles tells me this story. So Beth says to Don Rickles, gee, I wonder what they say about me behind my back. Don Rickles goes, you? No one cares about you. You're not even that important.
No one says anything about you.
No one talks about you.
I don't even know you.
You're not that big.
I do have to ask, do you think there's a physical match between him and Beth?
Do you? Yes, they're both tall and have 10 fingers.
Yeah, they look right together.
I don't know, they look more right together now.
Or was this on the regular show?
It just occurred to me that I listened to them.
Like, it dawned on me like 2 days ago, my hair's going to get crazy because I don't have, I'm not going to get a haircut. And then Beth goes, I'll cut your hair, but you can't cut my hair because my hair is curly. It's
hard to cut your hair.
Welcome, everybody, to QF, a podcast about Howard Stern. I'm your host, Fillmore, a.k.a. Jim Fix. With me, of course, is Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hi.
And back from the Ching Chong Charlie Don't Surf and the Private Parts revisited episodes from earlier last year is Benjamen. Welcome back, Ben. We're great to have you back.
Thanks again for having me back.
And now he sounds pimp because of Sam's $1 million ears, noticing what my tin ears could not. But we had a bunch of the idea was to do a round table, and we're going to do a series like this, guys, with different members of the group. But we've always been in touch with Ben, and when there's some topic that we thought he might want to be part of, we always had to give him an open invitation. So.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And this couldn't be any better time because of so many turnarounds from Wiggy the last year. And we're going to have a vast array of topics from last year until present day. Raven, unfortunately, can't be here today, sadly. And what's been your take overall in the last year since you've been a regular listener of the show, Ben?
It's been brilliant, huh?
You know, it still offers its little gems to the person who listens closely. And you get insights, even though he doesn't want for you to get insights. Mm-hmm. You know, for example, a year ago when he first was in lockdown, he talked about how his chore was to make the beds, plural. And he would catch himself and go, you know what? I always say beds, but I mean bed. And it happened many times. You don't accidentally say your job is to make the beds when you mean a bed. He's just stopped talking about that altogether now because he could not get it correct. But obviously he and his wife don't sleep in the same bed. And, there was a great slip up at the very beginning, not necessarily slip up, but a look into his privileged man-child life at the beginning. He said, you know what? I'll do my own laundry. Just tell me where the washer and dryer are. Talking about his own house that he's lived in for 8 years, 10 years, whatever it is, 12 years. Right. He doesn't know where the washer and dryer are.
Right.
So from the little glimpses into his life to the coping with being in the studio and having to still get his fix for penis and shaming of women and so on, I still get as much, I would say, content out of it, which is never, it's not that much, but I listen for the same reason you guys listen, not to be laughing at Chris Wilding's sing-along sketches and things like that, but to hear the occasional accidental truth come out.
Yes, the gem mining is exactly why we listen. And I will say the same thing. In the COVID situation, I find the gems to be particularly more interesting because the schedule it's in his house. He doesn't have a staff of people surrounding him. So you find his schedule when he talks about it to come out a lot more. It's odd. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. It seems odd. It just doesn't gel. And you always find the slip-ups with Beth, where he says something happened and she says something happened, and it either doesn't coordinate or they both can't agree on something.
The story seems to change. It's like the history of Howard Stern, which Benjamin and I know is the holy grail of transparency.
Or even more so, like, when do they even hang out?
There's a precedence. We interviewed Richie Wilson for our 50th episode, and it's been universally praised, and for good reason, because Richie really laid it all out there, and we had a lot of fun with him. But he admitted at one point, he said after Bianca passed away, she spent 6 months in the Hamptons, I believe, or 6 months in Florida away from him. So there's a precedence of them not living together. Can you imagine 6 months of the year for the purposes
from your
spouse, who you claimed, oh, love of my life, sweet love, which you don't hear anymore, by the way.
After a tragedy.
Yeah, and he's looking for the laundry machine.
And he's picturing Jetson style. You throw it in, it gets washed, folded, comes back out to you a few minutes later.
Exactly.
He has no idea what's involved with it.
Right. So the first clip I'm going to play is I Hate Being Home, and it's originally The Veal Hates His Cage. And this is from April of last year, April 9th.
I got to tell you, I thought doing the show from home was going to be something I might love.
You don't love it?
No, it's still a pain in the ass. It really is.
So it's work no matter where you do it.
It's work wherever you do it. And
yeah.
Okay, well, that's to me, that is him being truthful. And later on, like a year later, I don't have the clip handy, but if you listen to him lately, he loves being home. He loves being a recluse. COVID only turned him into more of what he is.
Yeah, and he has no reason to hate what he does when he alone determines what he's going to do. He talks about whatever he talks about, ignores whatever he wants to ignore, sets his own schedule, sets his days. There is only himself to blame for not liking his job.
And so recently...
The audio, by the way, sounds horrible. Did you hear that?
That was early days.
The audio sounds like he's talking in an old school pencil box. Like, where is this audio coming from?
Yeah, that was before they properly set up his microphone, I guess. And so I think he was going extra manual on the deep voice faking. Also, the gulping, I think, was prominent in that clip.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Can you imagine a person of his wealth and doesn't have a proper setup at home just in case? I mean, Cumia broadcasts. I'm not a huge fan, but I think Cumia is set up in his studio and at home, wherever he needs to be. He wants it to sound tip top. And for someone like Howard, who's like a veteran, decades-long broadcaster, to not have the backup set up is really insane.
Yeah, he doesn't have the space for it, maybe.
Too many guitars crowding him in.
He's
So
very bored.
I was waiting to hear Beth bowling some frames in the background, forgetting that her husband is right around the corner broadcasting.
yeah, mastering the 7-10 split. Well, we're gonna go. We're gonna be a little anachronistic, guys, and play with time. Here's one of the earlier clips from September of last year. Early COVID fear.
Now, Beth worked with Tony.
Uh-huh.
And they were together like 3.5 hours. I don't know why. And now I'm convinced that Beth has COVID and she's going to give it to me.
Are you quarantining from her?
I am. She's getting tested today. This is how crazy I am. Beth is getting tested today because I'm afraid of her because she was exposed to Now, Tony doesn't have it, but it doesn't matter. It might. You know how germphobic I am.
Germphobic. Depends on the day.
So back when this clip was, which can you give me the date, please?
September 14th of last year.
Okay, so first of all, nonsense on its face. She doesn't have COVID, but I'm going to get her tested anyway. Okay, waste of a test.
That was
nonsense.
Probably, he was on the other side of his mouth. He was probably saying, no one can get tested. You can't get tested.
Yeah.
Correct.
That was his big complaint.
You're dealing with, back then, tests that were hard to find, people who needed to get tested, which was a huge thing back during that point.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's just being, king baby. I need to get a test for my wife, even though she doesn't need it.
Even more nefarious, I believe. It could be, and someone tell me if I'm reaching in the comments, please, when this is released. Maybe he knows that she's not actually, or maybe he believes that she's not actually isolating herself and that she is seeing people on the side, and that's why he's paranoid.
Yeah, and the test, it may be under the guise of this is for Beth, but really it's so that I know I'm not getting sick.
She couldn't, but I still think she has it. And I love her so much. I love that woman so much, but she has COVID, so I can't go near her. She goes, honey, I think
it was more likely she has vagina, so I can't go near her, but I digress.
I have COVID. I go, just get tested.
What do you mean you don't go near? You're not sleeping in bed with her?
I kicked her out of the bed. No, she got in bed last night. I said, honey, she goes, do you want me to leave? I go, no. But I think she left at some point because she knew I was uncomfortable. I'm scared. I don't want
you
COVID.
You think she left?
I won't survive.
I don't want it either.
Yeah, I won't survive it.
He was probably snoring if whatever happened in his little mausoleum. Sam?
You think she left the bed? She never got there. She was never there. She never crept into your decrepit, oh God. Imagine what that wig smells like. And then you just the whole situation of like do you know how uncomfortable that would make you feel to think you might have COVID? So I'm going to make you so uncomfortable that you have to get a test, but I'm not going to really tell you to get a test, but I'm saying I'm not going to be near you unless you get one. It's this do it, but I won't be near you if you don't, but I'm not telling you to do it. I mean, what the fuck is that?
I'm sure she took her temperature, which was just the first step. Like, obviously, my temperature is normal. I probably don't have it.
Right.
But yeah, I always say about with him when he's trying to recall a story, it's almost like someone translating hieroglyphics or a fortune teller who's trying to interpret cloudy figures. He's never got a grasp on what actually happened. I think she left the bed. I don't know. He never knows. And it's always the simplest things, the simplest details. And, there's a reason why his stories and Beth's and his stories and his mother's and his stories and anyone's, they are never in alignment.
That's right.
He's completely focused on himself. And the truth is not necessary for his stories. It's never been necessary for his stories.
Right. It's an unfortunate casualty. Go ahead.
He's always
Go ahead, Sam.
Benjamin's right. He's always reading tea leaves. He has no. He just is like, hey, let me see. I think she was somewhere
Let me
here.
consult the magic 8-ball.
Or he's looking at hieroglyphics and they're dusty, and he's going, it could be that she left.
This is a clip. This next clip is one that I want to play. It's based on a lie he said about Trump. And again, guys, we don't get political in this podcast, but this is not political. It just happened to involve Trump from May 13th of last year.
And feel good about it, because it would be such an honest thing to do. And you know what? He'd be so happy to get out of this fucking pressure cooker and live the next couple of years of his life back at Mar-a-Lago, where he's happy. I know him. I've had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Donald many times, not at the same table. But he would come over. He would give me a tour of Mar-a-Lago. I've been there. I told you, it's like heaven.
I just love that.
Not at the same table.
Right.
What?
You know what?
Does that mean everybody in the room had dinner with Howard Stern?
Exactly.
They weren't at his table, but
if I'm in the same movie theater with Angelina Jolie, it doesn't mean I took her to a movie.
Well, she was on one side of the screen and I was on the other.
Right.
I think of it like the scene in Hogwarts, the big scene of like when they zoom in and it's all the tables of like all the different, school, like Gryffindor and Hufflepuff. And it's like one table's here, the other table's there. That doesn't mean you're all one person and one child is having dinner with the other child. It just doesn't happen. You're not all having dinner together. If you're not sitting across from each other, next to each other, or at the same table, you're not having dinner together.
Right.
It just,
obviously.
No.
Yeah.
There is one clip.
And again, he's also projecting, by the way, I know Donald. He hates this. Okay.
Yeah. How? His entire depiction of Donald is projection. I mean, every portrait he paints of every guest he interviews is a self-portrait. But when he talks about Donald, he doesn't want to be. He just wanted to get a raise on the Apprentice. He doesn't want to be doing this. He'd rather be doing. It's always exactly what I would rather be doing. Is what the person he's describing would rather be doing. And in fact, he says there that I know Donald. He doesn't want this. I know him. On other days, he'll say, I don't really know Donald.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it depends on what story he needs to tell, whether or not he knows the person.
Yep. It depends on the day. And there's actually a clip from a wrap-up show I have somewhere on my phone. I got to maybe send it to myself so I know exactly what day it was. And Gary made noises about how Donald, when Donald wanted to do the show, he would call them typically. They wouldn't call him. And I believe that at the time, during Sirius, I don't remember how many appearances he made. I think he did a couple phones, but that's about it. Phone-ins. But either way, you're right. His narrative of how he knows Donald, which isn't really that well, he just knows him the way you'd know a guest that came in often. Do you break bread with Gilbert? No, you just had him in the show. Did you actually really know Richard Simmons? Yeah, better than more people, but that's because that was a different era, and you were trying to get a leg up.
Named your daughter for you.
Yes,
Richard Simmons named Ashley.
And if you think like, okay, this projection, he doesn't really want to be doing this. If he really didn't want to be doing this, I mean, he's kind of gotten himself pretty deep. I'm pretty sure he wants to be doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At this point?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you remember, he was saying from the very beginning, and the press loved anything anti-Trump that Howard said. And he would say that he should be seeing a shrink because he has father issues. And I mean, the press would gobble that up because they thought, wow, Howard has insight. They didn't realize, they never realize he's painting a self-portrait always. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know anything about anyone.
Nope.
He does that with everyone, by the way. So it could be Donald, it could be Seth Rogen, it could be Madonna, it could be Lady Gaga. Everyone has father issues.
Yeah, or Gary now loving, for some reason, to find clips of Karens. Mm-hmm. And Howard, the master therapist, deduced, it must be because you don't like your mother. that your mother was a Karen. And Gary, the company man, just goes, "You're right. I guess you're right." I mean, why bother spending any time in school to become a therapist when Howard knows the answers right away? And that is, you hate women for the same reason I hate women.
Yeah. There's more recently, guys, of course, I think we have, I'm not sure if Raven and I've done the breakdown yet. I'm pretty sure we did. But he was trying to cover for Andrew Cuomo and the fuck ups. I think we did do this in the breakdown already. It's released. Yeah.
It was good.
And we tried our best to keep it non-political because it's about something that's real. It's not our perception of. I mean, clearly there was a fuck up made in the administration, and he made the mistake of going, as I got it here in the clip, going homo for Cuomo in April of last year, and he was all in on Cuomo at the time. And this is pre-scandal, pre-everything. It's well into the pandemic. Well, not well into, but around the world, it was already a thing. And he unabashedly put his support towards Cuomo, but it was really on the basis of he wanted to fuck Cuomo, in my opinion. So I'm going to play this real quick clip.
Boy, that was a mouthful early in the morning. How you doing, Howard?
Did you I'm doing okay. How you? First of all, how are you doing? I love you. I loved you when you first became governor, and I've always talked you up on the air. And I particularly appreciate what you're doing during the coronavirus. You're providing real leadership, and your whole demeanor is just well, for lack of a better word, a turn on.
Oh, all right. I hate.
There are much better words, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I absolutely.
Oh yeah, you deal with him. He's your governor.
Oh, he's the worst. He is the absolute shameless worst leader I have ever seen in this state. Beyond shamelessly bad. It's ridiculous what we have to deal with. He's restaurants to businesses to school. There's not one thing he's dealt with correctly during this entire crisis. And the problem, and what Howard has done, which is even worse than the press, because he got so personal and sexual and even more like dick sucking with his praise, is the press. They put him in this box of like, he's the antithesis of Trump. So we're going to love him so much that we're going to not even pay attention to these orders that go against the science of protecting vulnerable people. And we're going to pretend that didn't happen. So when this whole nursing home scandal exploded, they ignored it till they couldn't. And that problem exploded. Yeah. It was going on the entire time. The problem is because the press's flagrant disregard for it and their entire praise of him, they couldn't correctly cover it because they did this whole ridiculous praise of him, which I never understood, because he's always been a bully. He's always been shit. He's always been that guy who puts his friends first. I never understood this. Understood this. Either
way, like regardless which way you swing, there's no question that there was some major fuck ups going in under his watch. And the narrative at the time was, let's get Trump out of office. And if there's some kind of divide between New York and Washington, let's foment that. Let's make sure that's going to happen. Let's make that the story. And let's disregard what's actually happening in New York, by the way. Yeah. And so for him to go all in, but really Howard has the political savvy of a fruit fly. So it really was, I like this guy with the nipple ring. I like this guy with the hot brother on CNN.
Howard ran for governor against Cuomo's father.
That's right.
Back in 1994. Howard's run for his gubernatorial run has become a weekly segment essentially on the show. And the more distance we have from it, the more Howard was almost governor in the telling. You know, you were almost governor. A guy just said that this week to him. You were almost governor.
Right.
And, people don't realize, and he'll know because he never tells the truth, that he didn't even have enough signatures to get his name on the ballot. let alone was he almost governor. And, so he ran against Cuomo's father, against Pataki as a libertarian. And, could not get, and he committed perjury on his official state forms by lying about his address. He used the address of a property in distress that was, I guess, owned by a real estate agent friend of his, and put that on the actual forms. Now, I believe that because we all know he sued the government, right? He told them that he was not going to disclose how much money he makes, which was not
necessary.
Yeah, he just needed to check a box that says over 200 grand. No one would have been surprised that this guy who sold a million copies of Private Parts, who had a show on E, who had the number one, with asterisk morning show in New York City, and that he made more than 200 grand a year. No one would have been surprised by that.
Exactly.
So he sued the U.S. government, and I believe because he basically the lawsuit was thrown out within a day, and then he holds a press conference saying that he's not going to be running because of the salary thing. I believe that his lawyers, when they realized he had committed perjury, they weren't even aware that he committed perjury until they looked at his forms and they said, "You idiot, you have to drop out now before things get really bad for you. You could actually face jail time for what you've done." So anyway, I believe that, and distance from it, he now just says he was so close to winning he had to drop out because he said, "Oh my God, people are taking me seriously." That's not the case at all. He couldn't even get, I think it was 10,000 signatures.
Yeah. And I think he's tried to spin it later as we took votes away from Cuomo, and we were kingmaker. We decided, like, wherever we decided to put our votes, or whoever I told my listeners to vote for, that person was going to win.
Well, he certainly didn't throw it to the Libertarian Party. He left them high and dry.
He did, absolutely.
Attacking the Republicans.
Which really upset the Libertarian Party, by the way.
It should have, because they didn't want him to begin with, but Howard kind of stacked the votes by having his fans show up, and the loudest in the room got the vote essentially for nomination. And true libertarians thought, this guy doesn't represent us.
He doesn't represent anything.
Yeah, it's all self-promotion.
Right.
And his story has changed, whether or not it was self-promotion or whether he was serious.
But the Cuomo frothing was so nauseating living here. And it's so easy to froth if you're a celebrity or you're a millionaire and you have your private schools or your home schools or your mansions or your bubble. Not so much when you live in a middle-class society and everything's locked down and it's hell. It was hell. Cuomo made life hell here. And he killed a lot of people with a lot of stupid orders. So,
yeah, and that's to say nothing of these sexual assault charges that keep coming out. That I don't know if you covered this.
Oh, we won't talk about that, Ben, because
I don't know if you guys covered this.
Only Harvey Weinstein will talk about for Howard.
Yeah.
We've addressed that they're a thing. We've absolutely, but we're still waiting on the outcome.
If you addressed when in February here in Texas we lost power, I didn't lose power, but some places in Texas lost power, lost water, that kind of thing. A guy from Texas called in and said, because Howard was going after our governor. And he said, "Why are you so worried about Texas's governor? Why aren't you worried about your own governor?" And so Howard calls him a fucking idiot, and you redneck, and whatever he called him.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he said to him, "At least our elderly died with power on." And we had a total, I think, statewide of 23, something like that, in a state of like 30 million people. 23 people died. That's probably an average day of death in a state of 30 million. But Howard gets away, and that's like his true feeling. Don't ever challenge somebody from New York is basically his take. If you're not a New Yorker, you're inferior.
That's correct.
And he gets away with this kind of stuff. And it's I remember Janice Dean from Fox News was looking for that clip because she wanted to play it so anyway, Howard said that he didn't know, he wasn't aware of anything wrong that Cuomo had done.
Sure.
That's correct.
And you have to have your head buried in sand to not know that there are at least, no matter what news outlet you watch, there's some talk of the wrongdoings.
Yes.
Even his own party has started to turn against him.
Sam?
You couldn't get answers either. That was the other problem. You couldn't get a hold of people in the nursing homes to find out what was happening. You also couldn't go see your loved ones. You couldn't get them out.
Mm-hmm.
It was a massive fuck up.
It was incredible.
A massive fuck up. And it is still, this investigation went even further. Our comptroller went on, I forgot what show he went on. I think it was Tucker, actually, from Erie County. Our comptroller went on. He went on. Cuomo started calling all the local politicians, the heads of the counties, when he had the meetings, and he would say, okay, the vaccines, we're going to roll out these vaccines, and how many are we giving your county, your county, your county? Do you stand with Cuomo?
Yeah.
Do you stand with him based on, are we going to give you these vaccines?
Right.
How many we're going to give you? Are you kidding me? So that's part of this too.
It almost sounds like the kind of negotiations Carlo Gambino would do, if he was.
It's a total shakedown.
Yeah, exactly. So
But,
anyway,
it's funny that just to tie this up. So Howard's takes and Chelsea Handler's takes are very similar in that they both were in love with Mueller, and then they're both in love with Cuomo, sexually in love with them. I mean by that. And it's I always say that Howard is a fake Democrat. He definitely doesn't believe in most things that Democrats believe in. He likes abortion. He hates social programs. He hates anything resembling socialism, no matter how blurry it is. He hates anything resembling that. But he fakes being a Democrat all the time. I mean, it's what I always wonder is, how do people like Chelsea Handler or Jimmy Kimmel, or Sarah Silverman, who are truly Democrats, how do they not catch on that he isn't truly one? It's very, you would think it's very easy to trip him up.
If they were super fans, if they were really super fans and they had a brain between their ears.
Yeah.
And they took everything in, and they heard it the way we do. I mean, okay, you're a fan. Like, if you're a super fan, what kind of delusional super fan doesn't look at the newspaper or the various newspapers? You shouldn't just be reading one, really, in 2021, and listening to this person, but also remembering what they've said about such and such. And you're right. You're picking Sarah Silverman and Kimmel were two super fans, at least for a while. However, I will counter with Chris Rock was supposed to be a super fan, and the last time we interviewed him, he didn't know he wasn't he didn't know he was live. He thought it was a podcast. He thought he was being recorded for a future episode, which actually now, after the fact, makes me think, I wonder how long this pre-recording has been going on that Howard's been doing.
Wait, pre-recording?
Like he's been pre-taping interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you an example. The wasn't Stamos. Which one was it that got us in trouble? Not trouble, but got us our thing off YouTube. Might have been, wasn't Stamos, because we haven't covered it yet.
No, the one he
Arsenio.
did Eddie Murphy.
Arsenio.
Yeah,
Arsenio.
yeah.
We did a rescinding of Arsenio because of how awful he treated Arsenio back in the day. So the first part of it was fine, but the Arsenio part was the contentious part that SiriusXM decided, no, we don't want this on, you can't have this on YouTube. It was fine on the podcast apps. That's fine. And the only thing I could think of, because it wasn't a particularly bad interview, it might have been one of his best, but not because of Howard. It wasn't salacious. It wasn't a train wreck like the Robert Plant interview, which we also covered, but wasn't allowed on. We understand why he didn't want Robert Plant's interview on. The Arsenio one made no sense unless the people who did the interview recorded it and ID tagged it, and they didn't ID tag other stuff.
Oh,
Because the Tom Morello interview, we had no problems getting that on YouTube. We had no problems getting the almost any other interview this year. We haven't had any problems with, but that one was.
Tom Morello is another example of a person who should know Howard does not share his views, but he doesn't know that. He talks to him. Oh, you're also with tearing down the system and defunding all the police and all. Yeah, I'm all for that. The cop lover Howard Stern is all for it.
So as a result, we think that some of these interviews are pre-taped, and whoever's doing the job, they're doing what they should have been doing with all of his shows and ID tagging those particular interviews.
Well, that's interesting evidence. Anyway, because I didn't pick up. I didn't have any reason to pick up on it in terms of just as a not casual. As a serious listener, you probably there weren't clues on outside of, as you suggest, ID tags.
Well, there are people in our mockery thread that have been pointing out certain hints that something may be dateless, it may be a plug-in interview because I can't explain it, but Isaac Lightfoot, when you get around to listening to this episode, you try to inform us in the comments, please, because him and Raven and Reggie Bowman, a lot of people in our group have been noticing subtle tells. Sam?
Also, too, even if doesn't matter where you lie on the political spectrum, if just as a person with a brain, if you notice bad leadership, it's bad leadership.
That's right.
Howard, as an independent thinker and a radio personality, if he was some sort of rebel who, against the man or things that are incorrect and railing against it, you should just be able to call a spade a spade. When a piece of shit kills a bunch of old people and makes bad decisions, anybody should be able to call it. Don't give him a fucking Emmy. And if you made a mistake, be able to take back the goddamn Emmy.
Yeah, well, I mean,
what the fuck?
Yeah, up in Canada, one of the biggest bones of contention was the nursing homes all across the country were problematic with COVID. And that's because for years we've been saying they're woefully underfunded, they're understaffed, there's not enough of the quality of staff that they should have. And it's just been really, I mean, aside from maybe some really high-end hoity-toity nursing homes. And that's been pre-COVID, that's been a problem. And now it's being exposed because of COVID. Who takes the blame? Well, usually the prime minister. And it doesn't matter if you're liberal, NDP, it doesn't matter if you're progressive conservative. If a person you voted for did a fucked up job, you have to be able to admit it.
Sounds like we need Robin for a fact-finding mission.
That's another thing, too, that's gone thanks to initially it was COVID, Robin's News. Remember at the beginning, there was no Robin's News and there were no ads.
Yes.
And for the duration of 2020, there were no ads. So ads came back in 2021. And I always said that Robin's News existed to be a dumping ground for live reads. There was no other reason, because Howard had no interest in talking about the stories that she brought up. He would, his comments were often anything else. Yeah. Nothing related to what she said, or he would just do a live read. And, and I always say he's just spinning in his chair and waiting for her to stop talking so he could leave. But isn't it funny that Robin just abruptly is no longer a news person? I mean, it took this pandemic for them to suddenly say, you're done reading the news. But it was a liability to their show for a long time. She got things wrong routinely.
Yes.
She dragged Howard into conversations he didn't want to be involved in, and so therefore he just wouldn't talk.
Sam.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sam, can you do that impression of Robin reading a news article? I love it.
Well, today there was, I don't know if you heard, in New York, this group of people, Michigan, and it seems there was a group of children.
And cue Gary to come in and correct her.
It was so bad. It was so bad. And this is what it was like. And so because of that,
it was awful.
Yeah, I'll never understand why NBC thought she needed some counseling to be a better newsreader, considering her natural talent.
Here's my question to you guys: Was that a conscious Marcy Turk or Howard decision, or do you think she volunteered?
I don't think Marcy Turk makes decisions. I think she follows orders.
Yes.
I mean, she might come with but she's not working independently. She doesn't decide Robin is no longer doing the news, and Howard says, "Oh, come on, I like it. Too bad, Howard, we're not doing it anymore." She doesn't do that. That's Howard's fault.
Marcy Turk, I think, is kind of like how Facebook has this arbitrary group that oversees what can be okay for banning. We have an arbitrary group that can be seen for what's going to be okay for banning. Okay, and who decided upon the arbitrary Facebook group? Oh, Facebook nominated that group. That's like what?
It's one of the stupidest things on earth, the Facebook thing, because a post I made, like I used a GIF of what's his name? His name? And hold on,
no,
Michael. No, what's his name? Who played Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction?
Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames, right? The Ving Rhames GIF of him in the with the ball gag in Pulp Fiction, sitting in a chair, that I posted two years ago on Facebook on my other account, got flagged yet just recently. So retroactively, they're going back and looking and scrubbing stuff and saying this violates the sexual. Like, there's nothing. He's being tied up. We know that it's going to be sexual.
Yeah, it's going to lead to that eventually. But in that moment,
I thought, what a stupid. This is what you're spending money policing, really? Okay.
Yeah, speaking of Robin for a second, whenever she tweets, I will usually screen cap her tweet, circle the mistake, and say, "Barely any mistakes, Robin. Great job." That's pretty much like my response to her. I'll just circle the mistakes and then say, "Barely anything wrong. Good job."
Yeah.
Great job. And so she tweeted some. She's really into COVID-19 propaganda. Really into it. Howard and Robin were among the most hysterical propagandists you'll ever encounter. Just daily, and their fans, and the people calling in near death who've just come back from COVID and so on. Anyway, Robin tweeted something about COVID-16. So I just circled it and said, "Barely any mistakes. Great job, Robin." And she replied to me, "Everybody's so perfect." And she put "everybody's" as 2 words. Should have been 1. So I circled it, said, "Barely any mistakes. Great job, Robin." But anyway, she wrote "everybody's so perfect." And I continue to get alerts from people liking and retweeting her comment, "Everybody's so perfect." Of all things to go, "Oh, I'm sharing that."
Yeah.
She called it COVID-16. It's worth pointing out that you, as a newswoman, are saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I always get a notification that someone else liked Robin's comment.
Well, continuing that comment, I'm going to go on with this clip from October of last year called "Vaccine Bullshit." And this woman called Dawn, aka the Caller of the Year, she entered the picture and called shit on him. Basically, called him out for it. Who do you think's getting the vaccine as soon as it's available?
Hey, Howard, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
First time caller with you guys.
Cool.
I'm paying for my subscription. I hear you on the radio. You're killing me. I want to cancel you so bad. You're the first person in line to get this cocktail. I don't know who you're kidding with your listeners. It's so
I'm the
frustrating.
first person in line to get the cocktail. Where am I going to get a cocktail? Who the fuck is going to give it to me?
He's staying in his house trying not.
Maybe Dr. Agus for one. This
Cuomo.
Hold on. This dovetails.
His family, everyone.
Yeah. Well, this dovetails into the next clips I'm going to play, which is "I am sick. I'm really sick. I wasn't sick," and I'll play those in succession.
When did you say this was? When did you say
October 5th of last year.
Okay, the reason why they're calling it a cocktail is because that's what he keeps calling what Trump got when he had COVID.
That's
so
right.
The vaccine wasn't ready yet. So he's talking about you would get this treatment. And Howard made everyone, no one's going to get this treatment. Only rich guys and only these big shots. And everybody gets that treatment. The remdesivir. And all.
That's right.
But anyway, Howard made it to be that this is an elite thing that none of us regular people will get.
Right.
And
Sam?
that's true. My mom was giving this to people. She's a nurse. It's a monoclonal antibodies and these drugs that you would give to COVID people who were not necessarily, so you wouldn't have to put them on a ventilator, wouldn't have to give them, so they wouldn't be in the ICU.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
And it was helpful and preventative. And by the way, preventative drugs should have been more distributed during this.
Yeah.
What I'm busy doing, Dawn, is wearing a mask, not seeing my loved ones. My parents aren't doing well. We're all separate. I'm watching everything I eat so that if I do get COVID, I'm trying to exercise as best I can so that I survive this stuff. I don't know what fucking planet you're living on that you think I've got a fucking connection.
Okay, so there's that. Then we're going to go into, let's see, I wasn't sick, number one. Wah, I'm sick, mommy.
Oh, I want to die.
Okay, and this is from April 7th of this year. And by the time you guys hear this, we will have covered this with Raven. We're sorry for the overlap, guys, but it's necessary in this case.
I'm so sick.
Stop saying that.
I want to die. I want to fucking die.
Oh.
It's time for me to go. Done it all. It's enough already. I'm so
What's
sick.
wrong?
I've had since Thursday, I've had a low-grade fever. Like, I take my temperature, and it's like 100.9. Like, just a little bit of fever, and it's killing me. I'm, like, walking around half dead.
So at the time of this, when this show was going live, in our mockery thread, almost immediately people were saying he got the vaccine, and these are symptoms of him getting the vaccine, but he never admitted to it, and it just it fell in line with anybody that was getting it at that point. Sam,
that makes complete sense. That he would have a low-grade fever because he's never complained of a low-grade fever before.
Right.
Well, his anal thermometer doesn't lie, and this is definitely low grade. But he I had my doubts that he actually got the vaccine because he doesn't act like a person who's been vaccinated. He still thinks that at any moment his double vaccinated wife hanging out with her double vaccinated friend is going to get somehow COVID and give it to vaccinated Howard. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it makes perfect sense that that's why he feels that way, because he was vaccinated and was feeling side effects of it. But I also think it's worthy of a story. Basically, every single person who gets vaccinated tells the story of their getting vaccinated. He has to have it pried out of him that he's been vaccinated, and he'll merely just say, yes. Like Robin goes, I got Pfizer and you got Moderna, right? And then a long pause. Yes. That's the most that you're going to get from him, this master storyteller.
Yeah.
Who complains about everything, who turns every minor thing into the most epic tale of woe anyone's ever experienced. And he has no story whatsoever about being vaccinated. I mean, he's the guy yelling everyone needs to get vaccinated. Why wouldn't he be a little more open?
Yes, exactly. Sam?
So you said, I don't think he got vaccinated because he's acting a certain way. This plays into, for me, this hysteria of, I also see this with other people who are vaccinated, who are also continuing to act hysterical. I see it like, I don't know, Joy Reid's like, I'm going to continue double masking on my jog. Yeah. And I'm like,
outdoors,
what?
double masking,
the
vaccinated.
Fuck? Why? And you're acting like you're proud of this, you idiot.
But then the story.
Why, you're not. That doesn't make people want to get vaccinated if you're double masking on an outdoor jog when you're vaccinated. That's not giving people confidence in the vaccine. Stupid.
Just like he was the worst advocate for psychiatry, for psychotherapy, or the worst sort of pamphlet that you could put together to show that something works in terms of just about anything. Sarno, this is another. He's an awful advocate for vaccines because of the nonsense he's going on with.
Well,
Sam?
that's what I'm saying. You should have been. You're the person who has been complaining about COVID and all the scariness of it and fear mongering of it, which I think he went way overboard, completely overboard with it, ridiculous amounts. But now that you got the vaccine, you should be going overboard with, we're vaccinated, we're living the normal life that we can within the standards of what the CDC has said, or whatever guidelines are being set out within your state.
Right. You should be pushing people to look. These things are gonna go bad. Get your fucking vaccines, guys. Go get
Living
them.
in a scientific bureaucracy of crazy
Yeah.
is some sort of fucking Huxley goddamn novel. What are you doing?
Ben?
Well,
What are you
it's
doing?
funny. So very early on in COVID, they knew someone who had COVID and survived it, Will. And they didn't want to hear from Will Murray. I mean, he said
That's right.
it kind of sucked for a couple days or so. Will had it. Was a cancer survivor and beat COVID. He was far more interested in those who came to near death, who came on who came on like Jacob Marley to warn everyone, don't follow my path. I didn't take it seriously enough.
Right.
Don't follow in my footsteps. And you grill these people just a little bit to find out. I mean, they would laugh at something Howard says, and you would go, "Oh my God, they're a chronic smoker." Of course, you're going to have a harder time of it. Or Howard might ask about their weight. Well, I'm down to 350 pounds. You go, of course, you're going to have a hard time of it. It's you're going to have a hard time of any virus that hits you. Harder time.
Yeah,
but,
harder time.
But I really early on. Very early on, like a week or two into our stay-at-home, had read some stuff that was well-researched, and it relieved any anxiety I might have had about COVID. So I listened to Howard, who hadn't yet even come back on the air. So when he had come back on the air, it was doomsday every day. We're all going to die. It's the fault of bad leadership, and so on. The fact that he was able to, being the most neurotic person that we have, go on there and scream from his pedestal, "We're all going to die." I really think that Sirius should have pulled his show off the air for those reasons, or should have run some kind of disclaimer. He knows nothing. He does not know what he's talking about.
How is that not misinformation?
Well, I pointed out that our new expert, Dr. Agus, who calls in, was in the Trump video when he put together the montage of how people in the media spoke about coronavirus. In February, Agus was on CBS News saying it's not going to be a big deal in this country. And that was just weeks ahead of us all being told to stay at home.
Yeah.
This same guy, he's no more of an expert now than he was then. In fact, Howard relayed something about, Dr. Agus said, elephants don't get cancer. So we should be looking into elephants. So I just Googled it. Elephants get cancer? Yes, they do. Just not as frequently as maybe you would expect for an animal that lives as long as they do and is their size. Right. But it's not that they don't get it. Anyway, sorry for the sideline there. But this is the worst place where you could go for if your only window into the world was the Howard Stern show.
God,
you would think that everyone was dropping dead on the streets from COVID, that there was no, what Howard is willing to call civil unrest. That's all he'll call it in the country.
Right.
He doesn't know.
Yeah. It's funny.
Well,
you know what they're dropping dead from? Overdoses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Jesus, that's a fucking tragedy unto itself as well. And Sam, all about that. But the thing is, he's the big thing when we go into it closer to the present day shows, because we're kind of backlogged with the breakdowns, and we're going to try to get those out to you guys ASAP. But you're right. He minimizes the culpability. First of all, he neglects culpability. That's always his MO. But when it comes to the vaccine stuff, when it comes out, like, you're going to hear the second clip. Well, I wasn't sick. I just had a little something. And here he's making it like I got tuberculosis. I'm up on the mountain hoping I can breathe better.
Legs hurt. Everything.
So do you think you had the flu?
I don't know what I have. I don't have COVID, I don't think.
You didn't go get tested?
I'm going to get tested today, maybe. But I don't think I have it.
Because they say if you're having some symptoms, you should get a test.
Yeah. How would you have it? How would you have it? So
One sec, Sam. He's going to give it away right now.
Go into my whole story, but there's a reason I know it's not COVID.
You don't know.
That was the give. That was the tell. That was him admitting, I took the vaccine. That's why I know I don't have COVID. Why else would he say that?
Jason Kaplan had already been vaccinated since January. Ronnie had already been vaccinated. Why couldn't he say it's not for the elites only, and he has to downplay how elite he is? This was April.
Yes.
First of all, he was in the age group all along to get the vaccine early on. So anyway, he doesn't need to hide this from us like it's extravagant wealth.
Right.
Also, in his book, didn't he say he almost had a cancer scare? Wouldn't that put him in comorbidity?
Well, almost a cancer scare in that it wasn't cancer whatsoever.
Yeah, well, he would have been next to Gary Delabate's father-in-law who passed away from COVID, and that was given, like they mentioned it. They did talk a little bit about it.
How much airtime did that get?
5 minutes. 5 minutes, cool. Maybe.
Yeah, and the guy was in his late 90s and had a broken hip, didn't he? I
Yes.
mean, he was in dire straits to begin with. I would suspect he just happened to die with COVID, but
yes. Well, I mean, either way, I mean, like something like that. When you break your hip, you're already on your way out. Typically, that's
at that age,
the end stage for someone that age. Yeah, in this case,
I'm sure though, if a cop shot him, there would have been a parade. Just kidding.
We'll continue a little more.
Oh, it's not COVID.
Well, I haven't left my house for a year. Stupidly, I left my house Thursday to go to the dentist and to go to my eye doctor.
Okay, so this is what made me laugh with Raven. I go, so who gave him the vaccine, the eye doctor or the dentist? Who's the one that's going to take the blood, the eye doctor or the dentist?
That was the first mistake. And then as I was coming home from the eye doctor, I started to get sick. So if it was COVID, I would have,
you haven't lost your sense of taste or smell.
No, it would take 2 days for COVID to kick in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could be, even if guys remember, there is a thing such as not asymptomatic. But anyway, Ben, you wanted to say.
Listen again, just as he's recalling this story, and picture someone translating ancient hieroglyphics into modern English.
Like James Spader in Stargate.
Doing it live.
Get your paintbrush. Get your paintbrush. Start dusting it off.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Unless it's something psychological with you just because you went out.
I don't fucking know, but if it's psychological, the thermometer says I have a low-grade fever.
Well, you can do that to your body, you know. You can.
No.
Yeah.
Stop it, Robin.
Look up what counts as a low-grade fever.
Exactly. So now, May 6th. This is more recent,
guys.
This
is good radio.
Exactly. I wasn't sick.
A low-grade fever can be as low as 99.5, by the way.
Yeah.
If it was
it goes
79,
between that and 100.3. So it's a very slim.
Yeah.
We used to, like when I worked at a daycare center when I was a teenager, we used to not be able to send kids home until they were like 100.5.
Mm-hmm.
We'd call, but
well, it's perfect for King Baby.
That I've learned from being in quarantine and wearing masks and all that stuff. I haven't even had a cold during it.
Right.
Knock on fucking wood, but I mean, I haven't.
You did have something though a couple of weeks ago.
I did. I had like a little bit of I thought I was having a little bit of fever and stuff, but it didn't even count as a fever. It was like a little bit elevated, but I really never got a cold or anything.
Yeah, I haven't had anything.
This is great.
I just love because Benjamin kind of masterminded the art of clipping stuff just so, and then the your Citizen Kane was the Russell Crowe. I never fat shamed Russell Crowe. Yeah. Which makes me laugh on your channel. I'll try to post it in the link so people get it.
It didn't even count as a fever. So what type of measurement are you using to decipher fever?
Back of his hand up against his forehead.
So anyway,
the good old. Well, it's not Beth's hand. So which paw of a cat is he using?
So more recently,
I'm just about to faint.
More recently, he explained how he had to get off his 6 almonds and frozen strawberries diet, and that he's no longer a pescatarian because so and the clip is called "Turkey Needs Turkey."
Tonight.
Oh, she called you again?
She didn't call me. She wrote me an email saying, "Look, we analyzed your blood work, blah 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 blah." I hate to break the news to you, dude, but you got to eat chicken and turkey a couple of times a week.
Ben, you didn't.
Look, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's going to be like. I haven't had it in so long, but
it's difficult when you first
start
back.
Yeah,
because food me after that big surgery.
Okay, we're also going to get the clip, by the way, where Robin talks about how she completely bullshitted the public, which, if you couldn't tell from seeing her appearance during the book promotion of The Vegetation of Robin, you may want to get your eyes checked. This should
not be allowed.
No,
she's promoting a book on how veganism saved her life. When we know it was the expert team of cancer doctors, the best money could buy.
Yes.
And that she was not a vegan.
Well,
she is vegan except for the meat she eats.
Howard just said to eat solids. He's like an infant when you're like, should I start feeding him? Should I start feeding him solids?
Okay, well, I think, Gary Puppet, if you don't do it, or Matthew Schultz, can we get a picture, a Photoshop of the Gerber baby, but Howard's face instead of that baby with the face, with the open mouth for the logo? And just add 6 almonds, flavor, or turkey meatballs, baby food. So let's keep going.
Yeah, I was vegan before all of this. And so I hadn't eaten any animal product, including an egg. And I found that I was almost passing out at the end of the show. That's how bad.
He's laughing. He's laughing. This is the concern your coworker from 40 years says. Yes, Sam.
So Robin is to veganism as Howard is to therapy. These are the success stories we want to share. The woman who's almost passing out from a sedentary radio show that lasts 4 hours in the morning, right after she wakes up.
Remember when they had at that one point, Scott Salem was working out and he was losing some weight and he was just eating right. He was in portion control. He lost a bunch of weight, but then they had Tim Sabian on Robin's green drink. And then Scott came into the studio. It's one of the few times I ever heard a zinger from Scott that was perfect. He said, Tim looks like he's between marrow transplants. He looks like a cancer sufferer.
Let me, sorry, go ahead.
It's also like, I have a friend who's been vegan for so many years. Her husband is, her whole family is. You don't have to be wealthy. It's just their way of life. Nobody's passing out. Everyone's happy. She cooks and makes all their own food.
She was not almost passing out. I was almost dead. That's their story.
But it's like these wealthy people could have them cook all the food for you. If somebody with the means of middle class can do this for their own family and make this where nobody's passing out.
You look at Robin's book, and she'll tell you that the reason why she was always so tired is because her food was her body was digesting meat.
Right.
Now she's always tired because she's not eating meat and she's eating vegetables.
So
and by the way, she was a
vegan.
Get
an Uber to Friendly's stat.
Yeah, exactly. She was a vegan, but that doesn't mean she was only eating vegetables. Half of her book's recipes are desserts.
Yeah.
And I went to Whole Foods one time and saw that they had these vegan cupcakes.
Right.
And I took a picture of it because Robin said when you're a vegan, you don't have to worry about counting calories, and she believed that.
Yeah.
She says that in her book. And this cupcake was 1,300 calories. And it was a vegan cupcake. Now, Robin says, what calories don't matter. I'm not eating meat. And that's how she was able to gain weight as a vegan.
Yes. You to be a vegan, a vegetarian is a different word. Even just a pescatarian is fine. But to be a vegan, you have to be super smart. You have to understand what you're getting, what vegetables you require, and in what proportions to get the equivalent of a steak, pork, chicken, whatever you're going to replace meat wise. Otherwise, you're going to starve your body of nutrients it needs. It's not that simple. It's not as simple as listen. Let me just eat spinach for the rest of my life. Spinach, carrots, broccoli. And I'll be fine. You do need, and you can't be like running in the middle of the park and expecting a salad is going to cut it when you need, protein. You need something to, if you're going to be building weights,
She wasn't running in the park. She was sitting down for 4 hours at her home.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Right. Sam?
You said smart, so clearly this isn't.
Can I say something really quick about another "I wish I was dead" comment Howard made recently, and it has to do with diet. He was watching some TV show that I would never watch. I don't remember what it was, but basically nothing he watches would I ever watch. And he says, and the actors on it were drinking this Snickers milkshake, and I just go, Snickers milkshake, and Dairy Queen, he says, and I go, is he talking about a Blizzard?
He's thinking of a Blizzard.
But he's thinking of a Blizzard. So John Hine tells us a Blizzard, but he goes, oh my God, I wanted to kill myself watching them eat this because he wanted it so badly. Now, I often say that the diet control he has is exactly the same as the sexual control that he has. Right. Yeah. So in the same way, I don't believe he's going home and wolfing down Snickers milkshakes. I also don't believe he's with Ralph and having sex. I think it's because he has extraordinary impulse control when it comes to his cravings. Mm-hmm. The cravings are there, and he wants to kill himself because the cravings are so bad. But he would rather be in pain than take one bite of a Snickers because he's afraid of being fat. He's also afraid of being gay. So he's not going to actually act on his cravings, but those cravings are there and tormenting him.
Interesting. Yeah. You've said this before, actually. You said, like, if he goes gay, then it's no more sauce on the side. It's no more, just
it's no more wishing for Snickers milkshakes.
Snickers milkshakes, nothing. Yeah, it's going to be Blizzards and glory holes all in the same weekend. But I know we're going to talk. I'll say.
So one last bit of this clip.
Well, that's what they found with me. They go, you have no energy. It's great. Chickens are living, but you're going to die.
Dying.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? If it comes down to me or a chicken, the chicken's going.
So now you want to live?
I don't know.
No. So the next clip is called "Pescatarian Tutor Wanted."
And by the way, so fuck animals, because all of a sudden it was. Howard's so bizarre in this animal cruelty, I love animals. Now it's I have to eat meat. It's I don't want to live. Fuck life.
Right. Yeah.
But then it's the most important thing is that I'm alive.
Right.
Because I just want to live forever because I can't picture a world without me.
Exactly.
That's what he always says.
Don't know
I don't want life to go on. And then it's animals. And then somebody says he has to eat meat. Now it's chickens. Lives don't matter.
Fuck the chickens. Off with their heads.
I don't know if it's in this clip, but he says that Beth says she doesn't want his chicken being in the refrigerator. And he says, but you have the cat's chicken in the refrigerator. So the cats are allowed to eat other animals. But
the cats eat more than they do.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is the mind of a 79.
Yeah, we've determined it's 79. 99 is way too high. 89 doesn't sound phonetically correct, and 79 became the new number for us. So we're going to go
bump from all that tutoring he got. But
I think so.
He shaming people who eat meat is a big part of his persona. Yeah. Now he's no better than the rest of us.
Shaming people who eat. Period. We're just going to go into not this one, but the fat shaming clips are coming up soon.
For lunch, I now have Tupperwares full of salad and veggies, and I had some salmon. But they're talking about I might have to start eating
chicken every once in a while. I don't like eating birds.
Well, this is what I
bird on bird crime.
I was going to say. I said, now that you had this epiphany and you don't want to eat meat, you don't want to eat animal products, this is part of your problem.
I just imagine a blue heron going after a goose. I'm sorry, Photoshop wise. Yes, Sam.
Or just a vulture picking apart another bird on the roadside.
Totally.
And you just hear Robin's, like, I'm going to make you, it's just, you're going to have to. And she's the voice of reason. No reason. None.
Mm-hmm.
None of this is reasonable. When she's soothing him, does this sound reasonable to you? Any of her soothing?
No, of course not. The next clip is called The Vegemication of Robin.
Look, I had to bite the bullet. And you know what was really terrible? I had written that book about cooking vegetables.
Yeah.
And I was eating meat while I was on tour promoting the book. I was like, this is terrible.
Hypocrite over there. Good. Expose yourself right now. Come clean.
Yeah. Mind blown. This is every single bullshit wellness expert. This is Hilaria Baldwin at the UN. Mm-hmm. This is everyone, balanced diet, follow my thing. I'm an influencer. Robin is despicable for doing this.
Completely full of
she
shit,
is.
Which we knew at the time.
This show is supposed to be all honesty. Mm-hmm. And Howard just obviously he knew this because he goes, "Shame on you, shame on you."
Yeah,
whatever.
And he was laughing when she was bringing it up.
Both of them feel like it's no big deal to lie to get what you want. As long as you're getting what you want, it's fine to lie. Robin describes her book as that vegetable cooking book. Her part had nothing to do with cooking. She doesn't know how to cook, and she admits it. That was a Hispanic chef, Christopher Sanchez, who handled all of the recipes. And by the way, Robin won an NAACP award for Best Instructional Book. She had nothing to do with the instructions. That was a Hispanic man that the NAACP should have been awarding, not her. Her part was a manifesto about how she was misled by the government, her schools, her parents, big business, so on. And that's why she ended up chugging down ice cream and Snickers milkshakes and all that kind of stuff. Nothing to do with her own personal decisions. But to reduce it and say it's a vegetable cookbook is to take her part of it completely out of it. The manifesto, the whole angry tirade of 100 pages. Her part only lasts 100 pages out of that big book.
But to have the gall. To have the gall. I'm sorry to cut you off, Ben. To have the gall to go on tour looking like the Goodyear blimps and Goodyear blimp, and then say that, well, the reason I was able to survive wasn't because of the doctors, but because the vegan eating saved my my system so that I was strong enough to fight and heal and recover from the surgery. What kind of asshole does that when these doctors? She had a grapefruit-sized tumor. It was probably more like a rugby ball taken out of her body because she couldn't piss. I have all the clips ready to go. So some major saga later when we finish with 15 Foundation, which is proving like Ben-Hur right now, and so or North and South. It
really is. It is. It's the scene, the chariot riding down. Beautiful.
So anyway, so the gist of her, the gall. This ties into the narcissism theme that we've been doing with Chicago Bob, and eventually we're going to turn it on to Robin. But really, the 15 Foundation may as well be NPD starring Robin. It's not. It's just a more overt narcissism than Howard's covert. But either way, she had Russell Simmons do the foreword, and his name features prominently on the book. And you bullshitted. Now you're making a liar out of him.
Well, he's not only that, but did you know that he's also an accused rapist?
Yes.
There's a documentary that came out about him that he's very credibly accused of being a rapist.
Right.
And it's just funny, the dark people that are involved in the Howard Stern world.
And I will say he was credibly accused as a rapist. There was a really good documentary made.
Yes.
The documentary maker was Oprah did stand behind that documentary. She pulled it from that film festival at the last minute because of
because she had like 50 Cent and Russell Simmons saying you're not supporting your culture, basically. So
right.
she backed out.
So she backed out of it based on mob mentality, but none of the accusations are false.
Elitist mentality, though, too, really.
Right. But besides all that, Robin really did something so wrong and took credit for it in such a preposterous way, such a elitist, disgusting way. And she did it with her charity. She got clapped and awarded, and it was disgusting.
I will say, though, I would not be surprised if the editors said, we cannot put out a book about how healthy eating saved your life and have you be having surgery with your life on the line because of your years of neglect. Because you didn't go to any hospital, you didn't go to see any doctors, you used Chinese faith healers and so on, and magnets behind your ears, and ayahuasca, and
running
Peruvian witch doctors
blood.
and whatever.
Yo-yo diets.
Yeah, blood machines to circulate and all that kind of stuff. We can't put out a book saying that veganism will save your life when your life almost ended. So we're going to have to put in something in here about how, well, your life would have ended had it not been for you being so healthy.
Right.
Yeah. You know, the irony, though, is, well, if you were so healthy, then why did you have a grapefruit-sized tumor in your body?
Right. And why didn't you know about it? Why didn't you go way earlier? Why didn't you have a gyno? Why did you have to go to Beth?
How did you not know about something like that?
But then again, so this is the part that where Robin isn't at fault. This is where the press is at fault, where how couldn't you ask questions even close to countering, well, this narrative doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, you guys have to get the clip of her on the show, The Doctors, when you do this breakdown of Robin, because the closest she comes to being confronted with reality is when the doctor talks about the type of cancer that she has, and that typically it's found in obese women who haven't had children. And it's the most painful. You're sitting there going like, oh my God, Robin and the truth don't go together. You can't say something like that around her.
No.
It's kind of painful because Robin can't really laugh that off and say, I have 5 children and I'm the same weight as I was in high school. She can't do those things. She obviously hasn't had children and obviously has been obese. I mean, she's she's lost and found 70 pounds since her mid-20s, basically.
Yep.
So anyway, it's a specific kind of cancer that lifestyle usually will bring on. And in her book, she laughs at people who get cancer and say cancer is part of life. She goes, people just expect that that's part of life, and she laughs at them.
Yeah.
That book is a huge mistake.
No, I just think it's hilarious how people during that whole vegan book tour let it go, the narrative. They just let her speak like this. No questions asked, no countering the narrative when it's so obvious on its face, easily provable to be false.
Right. Yeah. The only person that kind of called her out for being a hypocrite is, I think, during the Hurricane Sandy thing where Richard Simmons, my bad. Richard Christie said, Robin, you're not even here. Like you're giving us shit and you're not even in studio. And you're recording from home. And she goes, yeah, I'm at home. You're recovering, asshole. I had major surgery. Yeah.
Right. Well, the what Robin and scammers like her count on is that the person who they're scamming is kind enough that they won't embarrass them and won't expose them. And they rely on you being a better human than they are so that they can get away with it and get, that you're not going to put yourself in that discomfort of making them exposed. And they count on that.
And the other thing they count on is a lot of people don't have the medical insurance or the means to have the medicine or the procedures of Western medicine that Robin had. So if they were to have some sort of cancer that Robin did and followed the sort of treatment and protocol that Robin proclaimed to help her overcome cancer and followed it down to the letter and find themselves on death's door and said, what the fuck happened? Well, it's because Robin's a liar and because she lied about everything. So, sorry, she was eating hamburgers and promoting bullshit.
Yeah.
Good luck.
What should have happened is, what should have happened is they should have refunded the money and not put the book out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because obviously this can't go on. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this. I was able to get my copy 7 months before it came out because the book was delayed multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was on eBay, and for some reason, The Vegecation of Robin, which was not available in stores, was on eBay because it had been sent to some small booksellers.
Oh, wow.
And they weren't allowed to sell it, but I guess they weren't also made to return it. So I bought my copy in April and reviewed it at the time on Dog Shed 7 months or so, 6 months, whatever it was, before the book actually came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same book that actually came out. So I was, one of the first people to put the lengthy review on Amazon the day that it came out.
It was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
The next clip, guys, is called Fat Shaming 1, and Wig loves watching fat people.
Yeah, I was watching a whole bunch of stuff. 1,000 Pound Sisters is back on. I really highly recommend.
Howard, you know what? I was clicking through and I saw my 600-pound life.
Yes.
And I said, all right, Howard and Beth, watch this. Let me see how long I can last. This woman was just waking up and she started moaning.
Yeah, they all do.
She's in bed.
Okay, so he's enjoying it. Now she's going to explain how she hates it. And that was the original clip was from January of this year, 23rd. And this is from a week later, Fat Shaming. Robin hates 1,000 Pound Sisters. I wonder why.
I don't know that they'd laugh their ass off.
I don't find it funny at all.
Oh, I like them, and I love watching them.
Well, why don't you find other sick people to laugh at?
Oh, I do. But half my staff I laugh at on a daily basis.
Okay, so when it's other people, she doesn't care, really. But now this one strikes a chord with her. What's the psychology of this? Obviously, we know he loves watching people who can't control themselves because it shows him, it makes him feel good about how much he controls everything. But for years, routinely, he's made fun of fat people, and his co-host, whatever you want to call her, has been topping the scales at 250. She's been fat more than she hasn't been.
Right.
More often.
Yeah. Well, he it started back whenever they were in DC. She thought that he hated women because he would refer to them as stupid. And she was astute. She was right about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that he was racist towards black people. And she was right about that also. He's not changed at all about his hatred of women.
Mm-hmm.
He has politically stopped acknowledging that he hates black people and claims to love them now. But he desperately hates fat people. He's afraid of being fat, and he hates people who are fat. He looks down on. He thinks that they're weak, that they are that they are indulgent, and so on. And it is strange, very strange, that he would mock fat people so much when he knows we all can see Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost has to act like, no, you're skinny. What are you talking about? It's got to be weird for her to. I mean, every guy knows if he's gaining weight, Howard's going to notice it. Howard's going to comment on it. It's got to be weird that she deals with a guy who is so contemptuous of overweight people.
I think it's also strange. That's strange, and I think it's weird how he deals with, let's say, something like coronavirus, where it's like this, everyone has to be on their guard. Everyone has to be, it's this black plague and other illnesses he deals with in a different way, where he thinks sickness is something to be so serious. And we have to focus on this in such a, morbid way. And then he gets such pleasure out of other illnesses in a different way. Mm-hmm. So he's watching people die on television from a different illness and he enjoys it. But he gets a different. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's weird.
Yeah, and so does his eating disorder. He and his wife both have various eating disorders, and both present themselves as
healthy,
better than, because they're human, because they're animal rights activists. But their contempt for humans, they can't say it enough how much they don't like humans. Beth famously said something when Benji interviewed her about how I would rather have animal eyes look at me than human eyes.
I love that.
And that sounds
quote.
like something a serial killer might say.
An animal activist, I say that quote like in air quotes because that's the veil for I don't care about anybody or anything, but I'm going to use animal activist.
The easiest thing to be an activist for.
Yeah.
To veil my hatred for everything.
The next clip we're going to play, guys, is called Fountain Pen Is. And the Wig wants to be a pen. When I heard this, it was an instant drop. So thank you, Raven, once again.
But my father wrote with a fountain pen. And he had this one fountain pen that I remember him looking at it, caressing it.
It just gets creepier, guys. We're going down into El Creepoville, but just bear with us.
Staring at it, treating it so tenderly and lovingly. And I used to think to myself, not consciously, I guess, but like, holy shit, I wish I was a fountain pen. Because my father would love me. He would care about me if I was a fountain pen, if I was one of his pens.
This is arts and crafts talk. This is a goth student in arts and crafts talking about how deep he is to the bemused interest of his therapist going, you wished you were a fountain pen. It's so boring that your trauma is such that looking at, but as an aside here.
He does it with inanimate objects, Ben. I want to be a radio. My father didn't pay attention to me. So
I want to be a newspaper.
Yeah.
The way he loved the New York Times. Yeah. I wanted to be a can of sardines.
He's Brick from fucking he's Brick. I love Lamp. I
wanted to be OTB.
I love Lamp.
Well, okay. So
I
that
wanted to be a
his
scorecard. I wanted to be anything that he touched.
Exactly. I wanted to be toilet paper.
Keep going though.
Sorry.
But just a quick second. The only reason we're hearing about fountain pens, and the only reason we're hearing about a nutritionist, and the only reason we're hearing about the high expenses of having a Howard Stern storage units, and the only reason we're hearing about how much money it costs to take care of his parents is because his radio show is a platform for him to reimburse himself. So if he ever spends money in his personal life, he says, I'm going to pay myself back. I'm going to use the airtime, whatever minutes that the airtime is value is, because I get paid this much per show, however many minutes it costs. If it costs me $1,000 to buy all these journals and so on, I'm going to get that money back by selling it to Sirius. They're going to own the rerun rights for a few years, but the only time we hear about his personal life really is when he wants to be reimbursed for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even if you were to say like let's just go on this brain thread. If he were to want to be a radio or a newspaper or a pen, for fuck's sake, and he looked at it that way, okay? just say he were to want to be these things. These things aren't human beings. These are all inanimate objects. There's a part of Howard that has no human ability in my eyes for years. He's a fake human. And we say this all the time on our podcast. And he's a pretend human. So a part of me is like, maybe there's subconsciously something about it that he longs to be something mechanic or non-human, but it doesn't have anything to do with his father's love. It just has to do with he doesn't want to be human.
I think so. There's a clip, Ben, that we played in a podcast. I can't remember. It was one of the narcissistic personality disorder episodes where he actually said, Gary, I want to see you cry because I don't get emotions. I don't feel emotions. So I'd like to see what that looks like. And
no man cries more than Howard Stern.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean,
he cries when he was sued. He cries whenever he and Robin got into an argument in Mel's office. It's it's myth making. It's not him being honest. So, Sam, to entertain your thing, does he identify more with the inanimate than? I think I don't give credence to what this con man is saying. He's saying things to make himself sound deeper and more intellectual. I wish I was Ping Pong Records because my dad cared about whatever. It's boring. It's
well, it is certainly that.
No, and I don't mean
it's
that in the way, like,
He's mythologizing.
it is mythologizing. And when I say boring, I don't mean like, oh, this is so boring. I mean, it's so basic. It's so basic that I just you want to say he's trying to set traps so that you'll go, my God, you're so deep. My God, you're so tormented. My God,
right?
You don't take that bait.
And then he can also go back to the page. By the way, when he did say stuff like this, so then he can also use this audio or use this anecdote and say, see, I said that. Mm-hmm. So this is what he can use this in some further meaning.
But the takeaway is he sounds idiotic.
Yes, he does. Idiotic. He sounds like a
what
boring
is his father?
God.
Fucking Thomas Jefferson?
You wanted your father to stroke the shaft of the pen, and you thought of yourself as you watched that?
Right. He wanted the pen up his ass. He wanted the pen up Ben's ass, and he wanted to be the pen. Let's call a fucking Bustos a Bustos. I mean, and so the only reason I played that one, guys, because we're playing with time here. Obviously, I said with this episode, is because it's just like in 1.5 years, we're seeing the sort of as Chicago Bob says, the unraveling of a human being in the face of a pandemic, where he's more isolated. He's becoming more of what he actually is, which is really a fascinating case study.
Okay, but if I thought he was being honest, I would agree with you. If I thought he was being, how is it he's 67 years old? He's never mentioned fountain pens.
Oh no, but I mean, no, I understand. But the whole idea of I wanted my dad's love, that narrative, whether or not it's true or not.
Well, that's
I believe he believes that. Whether it's true or not is a whole other matter.
No. It's forgiving his homosexuality. Father hunger and homosexuality. You can Google it. Father hunger plus homosexuality. It's a common concept that boys who are deprived of their father's love and they're homosexuals as adults, therapists go, aha, there's a connection there. So this is a way of Howard not being accountable by saying, I blame my father. It's not my fault that I would much rather have a partner with a penis. It's my father's fault because he loved his pen more than he loved me.
And instead of having a penis, I am going to pretend I want pens.
Right. Okay. The next clip, guys, is going to be called. It's called. Sorry, 1 second. Robin's rapey loads.
You would have sex with Adam Levine in a minute, right, Robin? I mean, I know he's married and everything, but I'm saying
against his will, even.
Right. You would attack him.
I would rape him like Benji goes into those things.
Oh. Okay. I'm just gonna leave it at that, guys. That was proof to me that the show reaches nobody because that did not make a single stir. Yeah. And in the wake of, pardon that expression, the wake of woke, entertainment now, the world we live in, where you're getting fucked for things you tweeted 8 years ago or 10 years ago, or John Wayne in death because of a Playboy interview. He's getting excoriated because he's in the ground.
We're getting school names torn off.
But are you going to tell a black woman she can't say something? Because you're going to be the one who gets canceled if you try that.
Yeah, but
she's telling people nothing.
Right. She's never identified as black, so it's not. Are you really telling a black person?
You want to get the same look that the guard at Wimbledon or wherever it was got when they said
the U.S. Open.
Yeah, the U.S. Open, ma'am. This is reserved seating.
Sorry. No.
Okay. This next clip is called "Wig Asks for Gay Dope" from Gay Dope.
Okay.
Have you ever slept with someone who acts like a homophobe? Like, have you ever, like,
would you?
No, I wouldn't. No, I don't even like some guys get off on being called a fag and stuff when they're like sucking dick or what. I don't like that. But I've been with guys who are closeted, and it's very strange. I went out on a date with a guy once, and he was extremely nervous, and it was like going out with like a guy on witness protection. He was
Okay, now I'm going to continue. Before I finish, guys, I'm going to give you the context. It's Wilding, obviously, who we fucking loathe, and I apologize on behalf of the rest of Canada. He's not one of us. You guys can have him. And just like most of the guys in the Brambles have had him. But this is the key. One of the things Ben wanted to talk about, because there was a list of topics he gave us, and I said I'm all for a lot of these things because, number one, we have the clips, and number two, it's so prevalent on the show generally. Wilding seems to have, like Ronnie, overtaken Wig at some points where you just hear nothing but Wilding because it engages his gay fetish, whatever, and he lusts over him. But it's amazing how much more airtime he got over Mehmet, who wouldn't go the gay way. He was just like, I'm cute, but I'm not going to go that far. Whereas Wilding, to keep his green card, will do anything to keep the boss happy. You know that Will and Jason in the back are probably going, this fucking asshole. Just deport him. What happened to our airtime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just imagine everyone who's trying to get a green card.
This guy's getting his rainbow card. Let's keep going.
Looking around the restaurant and kept hiding his face. And I mean, it's sad. It's very sad. And
what about a married guy who's lying to his wife? Would you?
No,
have,
I hate
have you
that.
ever? Yeah,
I've been
me
approached.
too.
I hate that. I've been approached by a few guys.
Hold on a second. Howard has told us time and time again, married men can't be gay.
Right.
What does he mean by this scenario he's just dreamed up? A married man being gay. There's no such thing.
What do you mean, Benjamin? What about it? What about it? How would this work out? Wilding, tell me. Have you ever had it? What does it mean? Can you go down the line?
I half expected when Wilding said that he's been with closeted guys for Howard to say, what's closeted? And because just recently when they played clips of, was it Joey Ramone and Marky Ramone having an argument? And Joey says to Marky, he wears a wig. Howard goes, what's a wig?
I have to dig up that clip. I forgot all about it.
It was recently played. I thought it was so revealing.
Yeah, there's so many of these things coming to the forefront these days. The next clip is called
wig. Look at the last 2 decades.
Right.
Go on Google Images Howard Stern. It's a parade.
Yeah, if you Google Howard and rug, you'll just laugh your ass off. Just kick your feet up.
Howard Stern images. It's like, what, surprise.
Right. Next clip is called I've come here to bury more Wiggy, not praise him.
Been such an amazing thing because when you used to joke around even with my mom on the air and be like, Drew, call, I'd be like, oh my God, you're scratching at my deepest wound.
I know. I feel bad about that, but I do.
I have to say, when I read the foreword of your book,
that is the least apologetic apology I've ever heard from someone who used Jade Barrymore as much as he tried to get Linda Lopez to get J-Lo on the show. And she has, I don't understand. I guess she's just a better person than me, because if someone had done that to me in their life, I'd never forgive them.
I don't think she's a better person than you. I think she just has a show that she needs to sell. So she's willing to do it because some idiot PR agent said, oh, he moves the needle. But
I'm with Benjamin.
But, Drew Barrymore, aside from having Jade Barrymore on and in his book as a woman who he'd fuck if he was single and all the stuff that he'd do to her and all that kind of stuff, and having her pose naked in the book with him. Right. And he told her that she should choose her career over her kid. The only thing that we know about Drew Barrymore is Howard has accused her of product placement by going on the Tonight Show and saying that she rocks the Kraft or what was it, the Kraft
Cheese Whiz or
whatever it
grilled
was,
cheese.
the Kraft cheese.
Yeah.
And that really bothered him in particular. That a celebrity would never just mention a product without getting paid for it. And he's He's the first person to be that celebrity. Yeah.
Not only that, but at the concert for New York, her name is the one he used in front of the crowd, saying, "Why didn't Drew Barrymore come into town? This is the time when she needs to be in New York City." And Paul McCartney in the documentary said, "No, that was unnecessary, Howard. You shouldn't have done that," because he was there at the concert for New York.
Yeah.
And this is when Howard was, had his ass cheeks hanging out. Sam,
this is the one interview where even though she was likable, it was. When does it become, I don't care what you've overcome in your life or who your publicist is or what you have to promote. When do you say, okay, I'm not doing this, or I'm going to have a backbone and say, this is not acceptable. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to reflect back what you've said and confront you with it. Because it rarely happens with Howard and these people, and he's had so much of this. And these people have a bigger platform and bigger star power. Now, do they have a bigger pocketbook? I don't know. I'm not sure what their situation is. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I don't think they have a bigger pocketbook than Howard.
Probably
right.
Not.
So maybe that's why they kind of kowtow. But
I mean, Arsenio should have done the same thing then.
We went over that, but it baffles me that she just sits there and is like, and that's all he says is, "I feel bad about that. I feel bad about that." I would have been like, "You do? Really?
Yeah.
Let's go over the ways
Incidentally,
you
guys.
completely acted like a shithead."
Incidentally, guys, I'm going to post the photo, the insert of him with Jade Barrymore from his book, and it looks like he's holding on to a surfboard. That's how into her he is. And she's gorgeous back then. Like, she was in her 40s or whatever, but she was still fucking hot as shit. The next clip is called, if I'm not mistaken here, Racism Turnaround. And this is from, directly from Ben's SoundCloud page, and I've got the clips but not together, so thanks to him for putting this together for us.
So I was never beaten up by any black person for being Jewish. I was only beaten up for being white, and I want to thank my black brothers and sisters for that.
for just beating you up because you're white.
They never were into religious persecution. Black people
time out.
For that reason, the Polish guys would.
Just try to let it run a little faster because we only have so much time, and the clip, it's a minute and a half. Go ahead.
How would he know what's in somebody's head when they're pretend or
because he's invented these characters? That's how he knows.
Right. But I'm saying, as a listener, anyone with, even if you listen infrequently, frequently, or just tuned in, how would you know when somebody punches you what it's for?
Homosexuality.
He's great at mind reading.
Yeah. Well, because they guess they didn't wear SS uniforms, so they weren't going after him in terms of, his ethnicity or his religion.
He's like Miss Cleo.
Yeah.
Sitting in English class, and the guy turned around and he said, "Hey, fucking Jew," and then punched me as hard in the face as he could.
Well, what did you done to him? I mean, why was he so upset with Jews?
He wasn't. He was more upset with that he couldn't beat up any black guy.
So, and that's been the original narrative. Polish people. He told Paul D. Colfort in the Newsweek, I believe, art interview originally that became part of the genesis of the book that we're going to run through eventually. That was always the original narrative, and I think even in private parts, it was Polish white, lower class white kids, not black kids. Somewhere down the line, that was Jackie going, "Let's make it black because it makes you more more triumph."
It forgives the racial jokes.
The racial, exactly. Totally.
But did you just hear his turnaround? He goes, "Well," Robin goes, "Well, how did you know it was because you were Jewish?"
Right.
And he just gave that line, which made
in contrast to the
absolutely no sense whatsoever.
In contrast to the 60 Minutes piece, which we went over as well, but we're going to play that.
Right. So I'm saying, how does Howard know that guy has the mindset because he really wanted to beat up black guys, but he just, settled on me because I'm Jewish.
As the creator of these characters, he knows all their motives.
Right.
He's the Kevin Lofton of his own. Okay, so okay, let's keep going. I really thought you meant I thought you misheard and he wanted to beat up the black guys.
No.
Yeah,
no.
Okay. Sorry. My bad.
I call it the House of Horrors.
Why?
It was horrible. It was a horrible place to live. This town was a horrible place to live. It was a nightmare.
Because you were a minority?
Because I was a minority.
And that, Stern says, left him isolated and alone.
And my mother wanted to prove a point. My mother said, we cannot run from black people.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was my mom stayed in the house all day, and she sent me into Roosevelt High School. And I had a whole different experience. I was a kid, and I had to fend for myself. I mean, I'd be sitting in a classroom, and a guy would just turn around and, bam, punch me right in the face.
In the classroom?
In the classroom.
For what?
For being white, or just for whatever, but for anger. I mean, these kids were angry, man.
So he's talking about, he's intimating that it's black people here to Ed Bradley. And by the way, guys, of course, we all know 60 Minutes at that point, like just like the Barbara Walters interview and Charlie Rose, they're sort of like the gold standard of in-depth interviews with people, is in-depth as you can get in an hour of television. Yeah, they used to be anyway. And so he was going into this, and he wanted to go full into the lie. And that's why he was so uncomfortable, because it was on video as well. And clearly frazzled, because you don't go, what do you mean? Like, it should be obvious when you're telling the story, unless you're a shitty storyteller.
Yeah. And so in the book Private Parts, the person who punches him in the nose in class is Polish.
Mm-hmm.
Then he retells it on 60 Minutes, and the person is a black person angry at him for being white. Now some time has passed, and he tells it again, and it's back to being a Polish person who hates Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
And the Polish person who doesn't hate Jewish people, who hates black people, but doesn't want to punch black people, but he doesn't want to punch black people, so he just punches Howard because
that's revealing
all
of
he
Howard.
can get.
Well, yeah, that's again Howard projecting. Howard wanted to beat up black people.
So all of this is false and a lie.
Yes, obviously. There was no punch in the nose in class. His mother was the most attentive mother you could have.
Right.
She never had a son come home with bruises and black eyes and chain marks and missing slacks and all that kind of stuff.
What was the gym teacher's name in the Channel 9 show that he said he didn't recall, Sam? He didn't recall him getting beat up?
It was
Mr. Wood something? Mr.
No, I say this all the time. It was
they did a "This Is Your Life" mock-up with Howard as the guest.
I know.
I know.
I
know. I'm referring. I'm talking to Benjamin. So
I know it because the girl who shows up in it is allegedly the hottest girl on campus, right? Who everybody couldn't believe, and then she kind of demystifies that she never knew that they were anything more than friends. Isn't that what?
But the gym teacher was he quickly Mr. Chestnut.
Chestnut, you got it. Bingo. Yes, excellent.
What kind of a Dickensian childhood did he have with him?
He literally,
and Mr. Chestnut was like, I never saw that. I never saw. He goes, you never saw me getting stuffed into trash cans. He goes, no. And he's like, okay, well, thanks for coming.
Exactly. He was on less than 60 seconds. He was given the bums rush. So anyway, let's go into the one last thing, and then we're gonna have to wrap this up. So you guys choose.
Trans.
You want to go trans?
Yes. Go ahead, Sam. It's your show.
Okay. You have a choice of trans or podcast shade.
I like Benjamin's choice, trans.
Okay, let's go. Wham! My parents trans fetish won.
Was kind of jealous because Jazz's parents are like, they take her to all her doctor's appointments. Like they're sitting there with the doctor, and the doctor's talking about giving her a vagina, and the doctor goes, "Hey, are you orgasmic?" Because and she's like, "No, I've never had an orgasm." You go, "How deep do you want your pussy?" And
oh my
like,
God! And the parents sitting right there.
Yeah, and then they're like, they're discussing 5 inches. They want to.
Truck drivers are glued to their satellite radio receivers right now.
Yeah, there's so many car accidents now because he's telling such riveting trans stories. Semi trucks are just going careening off of bridges.
The labs just keep on coming.
Oh my Lord!
Yeah,
5 inches deep.
You know what? Wait, hold on. It's so now I know why they stopped having Gilbert on. I mean, this is good stuff.
Well, this is, you have to admit, this is some of the most revealing stuff he talks about.
Oh yeah.
God, we've had to curtail some of it because people are starting to tune out of the breakdowns because it's so horrendously awful. Well, the numbers on the podcast app, it's fine, but on YouTube you can definitely tell there's a downturn. And when he gets into the more gross stuff like the Ronnie dildo reviews and the porn reviews and the scat stuff, which Sam has to be out of the room for. But when he talks about the trans stuff, we're like, guys, you have to hear this because you can't be listening to the same show we are when you say it's good.
I don't even really mind if it's talked about on a show, on a different show. It's when he talks about it, I get grossed out about it.
Well,
his talking about
especially
it
because he's
grosses
talking
me
about
out.
Jazz, who's a teenager, and he's going, I want to see her labia.
I know.
I want to see the labia.
This is what grosses me out.
Yeah, and then he's got Hunt. They did a suspicious sketch segment earlier in the year where they said, Ronnie, I want you to name the top 5 actresses who are the hottest 5, and it was all just so that Howard could say he thinks Hunter, this transgender person, is the hottest. But he needed Ronnie as the setup for him to just come out and say it. I think Hunter is the hottest. And then he said that Beth had to say she's worried that Howard's going to leave her for a trans person. Now, this stuff isn't normal. No more normal than living for 6 months apart from your husband and sharing a mansion, but not the same bedroom and all that kind of stuff. But my thing, because Howard now has started to say born women. So he'll make the distinction. He'll say, well, I'm talking about born women. So he considers trans women to be women, is what he's getting at. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason I think that he's all for this, leading this charge. And it's not because he's more evolved than any of us. It's because if society agrees that a person with a penis is a woman, then that means Howard Stern is not gay because he lusts after people with penises. And if we agree you're a woman, if you throw on a dress and a wig, then you're a woman. That means I'm not gay. I like women. So he makes it clear time and time again, he would much rather be with a trans. And he's said in his book, you mentioned in the picture of Jade Barrymore, he mentions in that book that he would accept a hand job from Tula and maybe even more. And she's hotter than anyone you've ever had, is what he says in there.
Yeah.
So he's been wrestling with this idea. How do I justify wanting something that on the exterior looks feminine, but underneath the hood has the goods? And society has finally caught up to say, if you say you're a woman, then we'll say you're a woman. And therefore, you can't be gay if you're with somebody who has a penis.
However, he is also, I should add this, guys, because we covered the summit meeting in 3 parts. And at one point he goes, all right, High Pitch Mike, I want you to go after Lana Wachowski, as if to equate gay with trans.
Right.
And Sam was astute enough to point out they're not the same. Why is he assuming that a gay cross-eyed person is going to fucking appeal to him or her? Sorry, let me apologize to all gender fluid or whatever the fuck. I have no idea what the designation is now. But either way, Lana Wachowski was a woman. So he's going to say, okay, let's send the gay guy. Let's send the gay guy with blotchy skin, and that's going to appeal to him. That's his thinking then. I'm not sure it's changed over the years. It's not like he's evolved.
He doesn't understand that gender identity has nothing to do with sexuality, but he's hoping if he can confuse it enough to his listeners and himself, it will get him off the hook for whatever he's trying to.
If you remember the slideshow that he put up, it said, "We will convert them," meaning his listeners.
Well, that's nice. I really like to be pushed towards something. I mean, that's the whole point too. Is like, why are you pushing us towards this?
Right.
Yeah. If you if you look at the radio show, his audience is being groomed to reject heterosexuality. I mean, Ronnie is to be laughed at because he's an old guy with a young woman having heterosexual sex. George Takei is to be cheered because he's an old guy having gay sex with a younger guy, relatively younger guy. Chris Wilding's what are they? Craigslist encounters are to be, smiled at and said, yeah,
celebrated.
and want more. Benji's, on the other hand, are to be sneered at and you're judging him and so on. So he's making a clear case, and his hatred of women. He says he calls them the C word more and more and more each day, and when he's not calling them the C word, he's saying honey or sweetheart, which is his code for I'm thinking of calling you the C word.
Correct.
But on the other hand, nowadays, by the way, he would not give a damn about having the Wachowski on his show. And the only reason for that is because there are far more prolific far more popular trans people who he'd rather have on. That was
right.
popular.
And by popular, we mean YouTube clicks and teenagers and younger.
Right. Yeah. He just mainly wanted somebody who could legitimize trans. And by the way, he had a trans person since the 80s. He had Siobhan.
Yeah.
And Siobhan was
treated
younger.
like shit.
Yes.
Yeah, he grew to treat her like shit. But when Siobhan was younger, I think he was a little more tolerant. She's in the underpants and negligee party video.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of treated her as weird, but she hadn't gone full cat lady crazy at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But because he's physically not attracted to her, it's okay to trash her. And it's okay to trash Chaz Bono, because he's not interested in women who go men anyway.
No,
he's interested in men who go women.
Right.
Which nullifies the whole point of his whole trans pro thing.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
No, yeah. It's not trans pro. It's legitimize me as being straight. I'm sure of that. That's what it is.
Interesting.
It's always, his motives are always selfish. Now, like many, he wants to seem like his motives are virtuous, but it's strictly for his own well-being. You see, I knew I was straight because women can have penises.
I hate to cut this short, guys, because I do have to get going. But thank you so much, Ben, for taking part of this. There's a couple clips we didn't get to, but there's always another time for that. Sam, you say thank you so much for as well as for being here, my dear. And on Mother's Day, no less, when you should be like, I don't know what do mothers do on Mother's Day except get flowers and dinners.
I had a great Mother's Day. My boyfriend's, we took out his 86-year-old mother to eat.
Awesome.
With Mia, and then that's it. And she wrote me a really nice poem, and
Oh, incidentally, Sam, did you see anything in Insta about Beth? Like being an animal mother, or like her animal children.
I haven't checked her yet. I am up in the Hilaria Baldwin crazy like you wouldn't believe. I'm so obsessed with how insane she is. That one blows my cork.
And real quick, Ben, how much did you enjoy the post, the Maureen Callahan latest article where she got it almost all perfectly?
She did. She did. I did enjoy that. I hated the Enquirer essentially echoing of that because they gave him the escape route of management. Management's making him be this way.
Yeah.
So, and by saying his show isn't edgy anymore because management is not allowing him. You don't think it's edgy for him to be having raunchy gay sex stories constantly and having his staffer hypnotized to be a woman so that they can engage all of them in hypnotized sex with him, basically?
Yeah.
And you don't think it's edgy to be exploiting the poor and the mentally ill who desperately need money? That's edgy. The only thing he's not doing from his heyday of the 90s is having women get in there and get naked and doing racial humor, really.
Sure.
And exploiting interns.
Yeah. That's
right.
That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, he just exploits his male staffers who are willing to go as far as Howard wants them to go. But anyway, you can't blame this secret management, which I saw Tim Sabian do recently on Twitter.
Oh my God.
That he said, responding to the Maureen Callahan thing, that basically this is not the Howard that I know.
Yeah.
It's poor management Yeah, like Marcy Turk is basically the answer. It's not poor management. This is the Howard Stern show. This is him pursuing his interests.
That's right.
These are his interests: celebrities, homosexuality, trans.
That's right. Do you hear about it if he doesn't want to?
No, absolutely not. You didn't hear about these articles. You didn't hear about the New York Post thing that was on the cover of the New York Post. But you hear some golf tournament where they said hit him with the Hein.
Yeah. Anyway, I
wrote a whole response to Tim's thing. On our page. It was really good. I don't know how to re-find it on our Facebook page. What was that under?
He deleted the tweet, I believe. And if that's the case,
no, but we put it on our Facebook page. But I don't.
Oh yeah. Just look up, go into media and go into photos. And once you find the photo, you should be able to get the comments right away. At any rate, guys, thank you so much. We love having you guys. You can get us, of course, on so many apps, Podbean, Spotify, Player FM. You know the litany. Thank you guys for being fans. We love you. So smooth shout out and stay safe.
This girl has father issues. So he's clearly a mad Irish drunk. We don't
know that.
She has dyed black hair. She's goth. She's like the fat gay guy's son on The Sopranos. She's probably shit in the gym shower several times. And she tells Levy this on the computer, and Levy goes, "Whoa, it's perfect. Perfect."